Hey, welcome back, everybody. All right, Joe Sestak, a former three-star admiral and former Pennsylvania congressman, joining us now from our D.C. bureau. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to be back, Harris.
Let's talk, first of all, about something that was crossing the wires this morning. Former President Bill Clinton, we know, recently had said that, and I'll quote him, "I personally don't believe we ought to be raising taxes. It won't solve the problem." He was talking about the president's jobs bill. But just this morning, this is coming out in an exclusive statement he's making. The Republican group American Crossroads used a quote from me in a video opposing President Obama's jobs plan and the Buffett rule. The advertisement implies that I oppose the Buffett rule. In fact, I support the American Jobs Act and the Buffett rule.
Yes.
Those two things seem to contradict each other. What's he trying to say?
I think what the president's trying to say, which is what most mainstream economists are saying, is it takes three things to make us go. And two of those are going to be spending cuts and revenues. Yes, we got to get the economy going, most importantly. He's trying to say it's not doing it, it's how you do it and the timeline along which you do it. For example, if we don't extend the payroll tax credit that employees presently have next year, 750,000 people will lose their jobs. We will lose in our gross domestic product a growth rate of 1.7% if we stop all fiscal policy. So the president's bill, insufficient, but at least it will do this if we get it passed, which is unlikely. It'll restore confidence in the political system, and it will create 2 million jobs. I say insufficient because you know as well as I do, Harris, we've got over 20 million people who are unemployed or unemployed and stop looking for jobs and in part-time jobs. But at least it restores confidence, and at least, if it were to pass, or at least the tax credit portion of it, and it keeps us from sliding back into a recession.
Joe, is the president just a bad negotiator, or is there something else at work here? You know, I talk with people I know who say, oh, you know, I voted for Mr. Obama, but I won't vote for him again because it seems like he can't get anything done. Is it his fault? What's going on? Well,
you know, my background in the Navy says if you're captain of the ship, you're accountable. You're accountable.
I thought you were a Democrat.
You know, you can't point to Congress. You can't point to others. Yes, you got dealt a tough deck of cards. You know, came aboard, took over the command of the ship in the middle of a tropical storm. But you're the captain, and you should be held accountable. I just came from speaking to 2 counties in Pennsylvania, Democratic events. And, yeah, people are a bit discouraged. Now, I go back to leadership, and I mean this. This was a man who came into the White House who achieved that White House position through audacity. I think he had a lot of power behind him of the people, but then when he got to Washington, somehow he didn't take that type of leadership, keeping touch with people, explaining what he's going to do, and actually, to your words, dealing with a lot of tough love with Congress. And I think right now he's trying to make up with that with taking tough positions on the campaign trail, where I think it needed to be done for the good of America 2 years ago.
You know, I said in all of that, and I didn't mean to cut in on you, but I thought you were a Democrat. I mean, I don't hear very many people from your party criticizing the president this way.
Well, you know, I'm an American, first off, and I think like John F. Kennedy said once, sometimes the party asks too much. Look, I'm not pleased with the Republican approach to this. I will say the president did try to do some bipartisanship, and he did. And I thought Mr. Boehner for a while was there. But at the end of the day, this is about those Pennsylvanians who have actually lost their jobs, and they put a lot of hope in this man. And the results haven't been as good as they could have been if we had done things with more audacity early on. And I say that because, and I'd like to hear the critique of this, but the economists showed that the initial stimulus bill should have been over $1 trillion, $1.2 trillion. That's what the modeling showed. And yet, We were told it's not going to go over $800 billion because we don't want to be looked at as tax and spenders in the Democratic Party. Man, a torpedo had hit the ship. We were sinking. Buy enough caulking to plug those holes. Don't worry about the politics of it. That's going to happen anyway.
All right.
And so that, to my mind, is the lack of audacity is what's harmed the leadership in Washington, D.C. in Congress and in the White House.
Lack of audacity by the president who wrote Audacity of Hope. How frustrated are you at this point? You know, I should tell everybody, you ran for re-election in the state of Pennsylvania, and you lost to Pat Toomey, a Republican, but he had Tea Party backing. Some people had looked at that, political observers, and said that the president's lack of ability or popularity in your state and all the talk about the president's reform bill back then, now it's law, on health care, hurt you in the polls and hurt your running. What are your feelings on that, and what do you feel toward this president?
You know, I went back to all the 67 counties to say thank you. We came within 2 percentage points when in the governor's race they lost by 8 percentage points, and 5 Congress members, Democrats, lost by 8 to 15. We came that close because, you know, and again, I'm captain of my own campaign. I'm responsible for not getting it across. But we went out and spoke with people. We went down to the mess decks like a good captain from a ship and sat down and explained why I supported the health care bill. I mean, you have Obamacare. You're not walking away from your health care bill because your health care bill provided by Fox is within what people call Obamacare. But I explained why it's going to be a little less expensive than it would otherwise. So in my mind that was irrelevant to me. The ability to explain and not back away of what you're doing, but being my district, Congress is over 50% Republican, about 35% Democrat. We still won it by about 12 points. And I guess my overarching issue is this. America's character is best when we recognize that our nation has been driven for centuries by an alliance between rugged individualism but also common enterprise, to where we don't measure individual achievement apart from the greater good. And that's what I learned in the Navy. Those SEAL Team 6 guys, they're rugged individuals, but they came together to work together. And those investments in infrastructure, energy, education, truly show that when you achieve the American dream as an individual, you didn't do it by yourself.
All right, Joe.
You did it with all of us. And that's, I think, message why we did so well.
David Webb is sitting here along with Ellen Ratner, and David wants to quickly say something. Go ahead.
Well, Joe and I have had many debates about this. Good to see you again. He's got too many titles, so I just call him Joe. You know, and Joe, we talk about that rugged individualism and that growth of capital and the team. But what's taken out of that for me is when we look at government, who's a terrible investor because they don't use the same metrics as the private sector, which is the technology ready for market and will the market consume it? And that's what government doesn't do well because they can just take taxpayer dollars and subsidize. That's one thing we need to change in the government model. Can we do that?
Yeah, what you're talking about is what truly is lacking in government, and actually was lacking when we built the transatlantic railroads where millions of dollars of corruption was done, the transcontinental railroad. And that is accountability. People are rightfully upset when they see that government has programs that aren't well accounted for. And I understand that, where they have been whipshawed back and forth and are barely holding on to their jobs. But that doesn't mean you walk away from the proper investment in public education to give people an opportunity to share the American dream. And that's my concern, David, is you're right. There's been a real lack of accountability by the executive branch, which oversees programs. And that goes for administrations for the last 10 to 20 years. But I think we cannot stop our proper accountable investment.
Joe, I want to get one more question in before I have to let you go, and it's to Ellen Ratner. When you hear Joe Sestak, former congressman, Democrat in your own party, talk about the president lacking audacity, I've heard you talk like this, too. What's your response?
Except that I think actually yesterday at the press conference he had 100% audacity, and I was very proud of him.
Is it too late?
No, it's never too late. Week is a long time in politics. I think he did a great job.
You know, I think it's good to have him out there. Again, my only point is, I think as I went around the state, people aren't looking as they watch the football games, to speak in Washington, D.C., for the quarterback to come in with a 2-minute drill in the fourth quarter. They want him coming out of the huddle on the first play of the game. And I think the loss of that couple periods of time where we didn't see what we might have seen recently didn't permit him to better shape the debate for America for what's best for them.
All right, let's take a quick look and listen now. The jobs bill to protect against downturn is what the president was talking about, because I want people to see, in case they didn't catch the news conference, what exactly Ellen is talking about. Watch.
People really need help right now. Our economy really needs a jolt right now. This is not a game. This is not the time for the usual political gridlock. The problems Europe is having today could have a very real effect on our economy at a time when it's already fragile. But this jobs bill can help guard against another downturn if the situation in Europe gets any worse.
All righty, so the president is invoking all things all around the world for where we are right now. Joe Sestak, you still there?
I am.
You talked about messaging. Before I let you go, what is the message from this president right now that you think is just not resonating, that he really needs to hit hard?
The message is jobs, jobs, jobs. It isn't spending cuts. Spending cuts is an important part of it. But he's also letting people know that we've just got to stop hemorrhaging jobs, not just creating jobs, or we're going to slide into a recession. And it's about jobs, and he permitted for too long the debate to be on just debt reduction. Important, but instead of jobs primarily, and how debt reduction fits into that.